Hey, thanks for joining me. This is my review of Sirui's 24mm anamorphic lens for micro four thirds and E-mount. This is a 1.33x anamorphic, which means the image is squeezed in 1.33x and then you unsqueeze it in post to get the image that you're seeing right now. This lens is pretty revolutionary because wide-angle anamorphics tend to be very expensive lenses, and they tend to be really large and cumbersome to use. This lens is small enough to take with you when you're traveling, and it's affordable enough that prosumers and enthusiasts can use it, and not just people renting out lenses for big budget shoots. And the other really cool thing about this lens is that you can use it with your other Sirui anamorphic lenses. They all have the same squeeze factor, they work on the same cameras, and they can be intercut in post seamlessly. So I'm going to take this lens out in the real world, test it out a whole bunch so you can see a lot of footage, and you can judge for yourself if you think that this fits your workflow.
I've been away for far too long, but the deed is done. We must move on. Seems like the shadow has a hold so strong, but I will fear not. Oh no, I won't. Oh no, I won't. Oh no, I won't. I woke to find the roses in the street, people in the heat, mothers gone cold. Did I imagine a different shade of time when a serpent's line carried no weight, carried no weight?
Now I'm going to do a comparison between the different Sirui anamorphic lenses and how they cut together. Starting with the 24mm, which you're seeing right now, I'm recording on the Sony A7S3 camera. So this is going to be just a 4K image that I crop in on, which is a little bit different than my technique was with the Sony A7iii, where I had the clear image zoom that I could use for cropping. So you can see the wide field of view, characteristic anamorphic flare. Now let's see how that changes up when I switch to the 35mm lens. Okay, now we're on the Sirui 35mm f1.8 lens, also a 1.33 anamorphic, and I have the monopod in exactly the same spot. I have my mark in exactly the same spot, so same distance, same angle. The only change here is the lens. And finally, Sirui 50mm f1.8 1.33 anamorphic lens, and you can see that there is some flare action, pretty intense flare action going on behind me because I'm shooting straight into the sun. And I did these tests intentionally shooting into the sun so that you could see the flare difference between the different lenses. So this is wide open at f1.8 on the 50mm lens. Okay, now we're back on the 24mm lens. I'm a little bit further away, and the sun is coming from the side instead of behind me. So now we have side light that's glancing across me, and it's also hitting the lens from the side, which is creating a flare in the shot. 35mm lens now, same side light, same angle. Going to be a little bit shallower depth of field because of that f1.8 aperture, because the 24 had an f2.8 aperture. Now I'm on the 50, same angle, different field of view. Here I'll compare the uncropped images so you can see the difference in the image circle coverage of each lens. Note that the 24mm has the least coverage, and the 50mm has the largest image circle coverage. Okay, so as I play this footage for you, I'm gonna give you some of my final thoughts on this lens. First of all, this lens is gonna give you a lot of flare. You definitely get more flare with the 24mm than you would with Sirui's other lenses under the same lighting situations. So I would recommend just using a lens hood whenever you don't want as much flare. Also, as I demonstrated in the earlier comparisons, this lens doesn't cover as wide of an image circle as the 35 and the 50mm lenses do. It will cover APS-C or micro four thirds sensors completely, but if you try to crop any wider than that with this lens, you will see vignetting. Whereas with Sirui's other lenses, you can get away with a little bit wider of a crop on a bigger sensor. One final advantage of using an anamorphic lens instead of just cropping the top and the bottom of your image is that you don't lose resolution when you go for the widescreen look. So effectively, I get a much sharper image out of my camera than I would have if I had just used a spherical lens and cropped the top and the bottom. So overall, I definitely recommend getting this lens if you're looking for an anamorphic that's wide angle and affordable, because it's pretty much your only option right now. Any other wide-angle anamorphic would be either more expensive or bigger and heavier and less portable. So thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.